Welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus. Today I am joined by Rabbi Dovid Heber, a Kashrus Administrator at the Star K in Baltimore. Thank you, Rabbi Heber, for being here again.
Thank you for inviting me back.
Now, speaking of Lumdisha cereals, I know that one of the more Lumdisha cereals as far as Hilchos Brachos is concerned is Crispix.
Crispix is the most lumdish cereal.
So talk about how Crispix is made and how that manifests itself in a difficult brachas question.
Sure. Okay. So Crispix is made. It's a Kellogg's product, and we actually were at the factory where they make this product, and we actually Rav Heinemann also went to check to the factory to actually see it and make sure that there's a Clarkite. Rav Heinemann, I think, was the first. Paisik. Someone wrote a shtickle Torah on Crispix, and the beginning of the shtickle Torah with various paiskim. It's mamish, different paiskim. The first it began Yodua Hapsak Rav Heinemann Shlita because he had paskin on it already, probably I don't know, at least 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and the way they make it is as follows. The real way they make it is proprietary, so we can't get into the prate pratim. But what the proprietary part is not negei hilchos brachos. What's the Hilchos Brachos is not proprietary, and that is that it has one side rice and one side corn. Okay, and the rice side is going to be mezainis because it's processed, like we said, rice checks. It's similar to rice checks on one side. The other side is corn. Okay, now agav corn checks the bracha is shahakol. The OU who's been to the factory says that it's enough, small enough pieces that it becomes a shako, loses its tsura, it's no longer nicker. Crispix, though, what they use, the pieces of corn that they use are big enough that they're considered to be nicker.
That's interesting. So corn. It's different than corn checks.
I've never been to the corn checks factory, but the way it was described, there it's less nicker than the Crispix, and at least the lumdus that was described. The Oyu Paisim came out that it's shahakal because it loses its tsura, right? The corn checks, and that's what we put on our list, based on the I guess Rabelski or Schechter who paskined on this, and but Crispix, Rabbi Heinemann actually saw it. He was given this is what it looks like before it goes into the machinery. He looked at it. He said, "Klor, it's nicker, 100%." Originally, they brought samples back, right? And said, "This is what it looks like." He said, "It's hadama." Right, it still retains its status of hadama, and at the factory also, he looked at it. Klor, it retains his status. It retains the status of hadama. Now, agav, I'll tell you something else that happened in the factory to get bishul akum, which was very interesting.
Okay.
But lamaisa.
So now we have mezainis and hadama.
And hadama, right? So here's where it gets. And technically, they are. They come together, right? And that's the proprietary part of how they get them together. But they get it together because you see that it's together. Now, So now the rice side is mezainis, and the corn side is hadama. It's basically there's not basically equal. For all one could don on percentages, but for all intents and purposes, you look at it, you see it looks basically the same. Someone recently called me and they said maybe this side looks a little bigger. I said there's a formulation. It looks the same. They want it to be basically the same, right. And therefore you have this item. So Rav Heinemann paskin, you make two brachas. On this, you make a mezainis on the right side and a hadama on the corn side because there's no ikar and tuffle. How do you don an ikar and tuffle? Right, you eat a piece of cake with frosting. So you have mezainis and then you have the shakal, but shakal's tuffle because the gedarim of ikar and tuffle say you make one bracha. Here, when you go through all the tiebreakers, what do you want most? I want both. Right? If I wanted corn checks, if I wanted corn, I have corn checks. If I wanted rice, I have rice checks. I want them both. So there's no rive for all intents and purposes. It's close enough that it's considered as one, and therefore you have no ikar and tuffle. You make two brachas. Now I just want to point out, I've said this in a shir, many times, and one year a rav in Baltimore called me up, and he said a neighbor called me up, and they said they're making two brachas on Crispix. So I said, it's for Heinemann's psak. There are chalukah deis, which I'll mention in a moment, just briefly. There are chalukah deis. So no, he said, no, that's not what I mean. He said, somebody went ahead, my neighbor, and they heard in a shir that you make a mezainis and a hadama. So they pick up the Crispix and they say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam b'remin is mezainis. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam b'remin. I said, oh no, right? You gotta have his zohir and everything you say. How you say
Right,
it?
be careful.
Because you have to make a mezainis and eat a little bit of the rice side, and then you make hadama, and then you eat the corn side.
Is it easy to tell which side is which?
Okay, so that's a good question. So when we asked the company and we were at the plant and we saw it, we make the dark side is the rice side, and the light
lighter
side
side
is the corn side. People have called us several times and they say if you look at the box and they write a rice and a corn cereal, you see it looks like it's fakert on the box. But we got nervous once. Someone said there's a case, and we called them up, and when the person with contact wasn't in, and we were all this many years ago. Lamaisa, don't look at the box. The box is marketing, right? The ikr, you can't rely on the front of the box. You rely on the ingredients. You can't rely on the marketing for whatever cheshbon. And we tied it to them. Why
misleading?
Right. It's the opposite side, so it's not. Don't have kamina for them. But lamaisa, the right side is the dark side, and the front side is the light side. Anyway, so you make the brachas in that order. There are other paiskim that are chaylik. Some say you cannot have one entity that's two brachas. Right? You can't have such a thing. Now Ramesh has an ice cream sandwich. Did say there's two brachas. You make a mezainis and a shahakol on an ice cream sandwich. But lamaisa, those aren't really fused together. They're not.
Right.
They're not heated together. Right, they're two entities that just, they're separate entities.
And as far as bracha achrayna on Crispix?
So that would be burn a fasha. So that's because rice, anyways, is a burn a
Anyway,
fasha.
burn a fasha.
So you're good.
So you're good.
You're good. Some places
It would be a little more complicated if it was from the Chamishas Minei Dagan.
Right, correct.
Right?
Then you have to start getting into shiurim, which
Right.
is a whole other entity of what the bracha achrayna is on
Baruch
something.
Hashem, the mezainis side is rice.
Baruch Hashem. Other places don't say shahakol because you need one bracha, and that's you revert to, it's kind of you have two mix. So then maybe it's just a shackle. Some say you make just a mezainis because even though they're equal, but mezainis is going to cover b'diavad and everything, right? And so there are look at the deis on what bracha to be made. You could look at what the halacha l'maisa is. Ask your paisik what it is, and Mr. Shem, you'll know what the psak is.
Fascinating. Any final comments on this topic of cereals and brachas?
Right. The main thing is to be alert for what the cereal is. You could look to see sometimes there's changes. We've gotten calls that we had Cheerios. There was a kufa where Cheerios were making fruity Cheerios, and it was different. It seemed to be a different formula. At one point, there was very little oats in it, and it seemed to be totally the lower ingredient. It was a shahakal. Then all of a sudden we got a call that oats are higher up. So consumers are, and I'm sure you've heard this many times in your wonderful series, and that is that the consumers are the eyes and ears of the kashrus agencies, and they bring information that we're not reading cereal boxes.
Right,
We review it. So consumers should be alert, and when they see something that seems to be wrong, they should call up and say, "What's the story?" And then that will be boli day tikkun.
Thank you for this fascinating conversation, this educational primer on cereals.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much.